But yeah, even if proprioception is our goal, one of the interesting things to look at is, well, how does your brain deal with proprioception? We train most training programs, when we think of them, they're like, how do you move for better shoulders, better elbows, better knees? Occasionally you'll get ankles, occasionally you'll get hips as well. But when we look at, well, what's the brain designed to do, you start to look at the motor homunculus and the sensory homunculus. So this is, if you took the ratio of what a person looks like versus what a person would look like if they were proportionally built to how the brain builds the map of itself, they're not quite the same. So actually we would just have these huge hands and a huge face and a huge mouth and nothing else. Like, the brain has so many neurons, so many neural connections that go to dealing with your hand movement or a sensation on your hand than it does sensation on your wrist or your elbow. And the same with your mouth, that actually this is pretty much, as far as the brain's concerned, when it's thinking about what my hand's going to do and what's my face going to do. I'm going to need my face to communicate with other people. I'm going to need my eyes and the senses to gather information. And then eventually, when I find the food I want, I'm going to want to put it in my hands, and then I'm going to want to put it in my mouth and eat it. So hands and face are the two most important, and then with a little bit on feet. Really, the maps are kind of based around how many bones there are in each section. So our hands and our feet have many more bones in them than, let's say, our elbow does. There's so many more bones, and that means more joints, more options, possibilities for movement,
more feedback.
And more feedback.
Yeah.
And we never really train any of those, and possibly a good reason for it. The elbow, because it doesn't have so much of a representation in the brain, it means it's more likely to feel pain. If something goes wrong, the brain isn't able to figure out what's going on because it doesn't have so much information coming in to base it off of. But also, if we want to improve our movement, actually we might want to think more about our hands, more about our face, and more about our feet. So foot mobility as a big example, most people ignore. Most of the time we're in shoes that restrict the movement of our feet. That's kind of a controversial thing at the moment, because people are saying, well, actually barefoot shoes, some studies are saying, oh, this is really the best thing ever, and then some are saying, we tried barefoot shoes while running and it caused more injuries than less injuries. So I don't really want to comment on running specifically, but just being barefoot more of the time is going to allow more movement through the joint, more movement with your foot. And that's going to feed more information to the brain in a way that the brain understands. So actually, our brain is more likely to feel safe when we're moving our hands and feet than when we're trying to tell our elbow to do something.
Yeah, that's it. I personally, if I'm not outside walking, I'm not in shoes. I will try and be out of shoes as much as humanly possible. And just to speak to the running thing, obviously I have no idea, I haven't read any of these studies at all about barefoot shoes, but it all depends on what you're running on as well. Because, as much as there is rock and solid surface, I don't think we're able to be pounding concrete in barefoot shoes. But as I say, the better information your feet are given, the less movement problems you're generally probably going to have, knees, hips, and further up the chain. A lot of people that I've seen in the past with really bad knees and hips and lower spines and all that kind of thing, they've always naturally worn big, cushy trainers.
Yeah. And it's hard to know which came first, but I know for myself, because I wear like the barefoot shoes all the time now. And I find it very hard. So I've had a few times when I've gone camping and stuff where those shoes are a bit more expensive. I don't want to bring them, and I don't want to get them covered in mud. So I'll buy a pair of trainers, literally within minutes of the trainers being on, I've got my knees are working harder than massively harder than they were before.
Yeah.
And I've heard similar stories from people when they put the barefoot shoes on straight away. Suddenly it's like, oh, my ankles the next day, they're so worn out because actually, we're putting them through motions and movements that we weren't doing before.
Yeah, definitely. I'm the same. Whenever if I have to wear like heavy boots or trainers or anything like that, if I go camping, I actually take a pair of Freyus. Cheap Chinese, not sponsored by the way, but cheap sort of, because a lot of acrobats would wear them anyway. Very little padding in them, very flat soled.